5-year-old Emma Grace Thompson sat cross-legged on the gymnasium floor of Fort Bragg Elementary School, her small hands clutching a worn teddy bear that still smelled faintly of her father's cologne. Around her, 300 military children sat in similar positions, all gathered for the annual Gold Star Family Memorial Day ceremony honoring fallen service members. Emma didn't fully understand why she was here. She knew Daddy wasn't coming home. Mommy had explained that Daddy was a hero, that he'd been brave, that he was in heaven now. But Emma's 5-year-old mind struggled with concepts like forever and heaven and hero. What she understood was simpler and more painful. Daddy wasn't going to tuck her in tonight or ever again. The ceremony had been going on for 20 minutes. Various speakers had taken podiums, generals and politicians and community leaders, all using words Emma didn't understand. Words like sacrifice and valor and honor. She fidgeted with her teddy bear's ear, the one Daddy had sewn back on 3 times because Emma loved that bear so much she nearly hugged it to pieces. Major Daniel Thompson had been killed in Afghanistan 3 months ago. An IED had destroyed his convoy while he was leading a humanitarian mission to deliver medical supplies to a remote village. He'd been 32 years old, a dedicated Army doctor, a loving husband, and Emma's entire world. Emma's mother, Sarah Thompson, sat in a row of chairs behind the children, her hand resting gently on Emma's shoulder whenever the little girl would turn around seeking comfort. Sarah was 29 years old and looked like she'd aged a decade in 3 months. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of sleepless nights. Her smile, when it appeared, never quite reached her eyes anymore. On the stage, another speaker was finishing his remarks. Emma heard phrases like ultimate sacrifice and grateful nation, but they meant nothing to her. She was hungry and tired and wanted to go home to her room, where Daddy's picture sat on her nightstand, and she could pretend he was just deployed, not gone forever. Then Chaplain Robert Hayes was introduced. He was 63 years old, with silver hair and kind eyes that seen more tragedy than most people could imagine. He'd been a military chaplain for 38 years, had counseled thousands of grieving families, had presided over hundreds of memorial services. He developed a reputation throughout the military community for his ability to speak to grief in ways that brought comfort without dismissing pain. Chaplain Hayes stepped to the podium and looked out at the sea of faces, children and adults all connected by the thread of loss. He'd been asked to speak for 10 minutes, to offer words of comfort and hope. He prepared remarks, had his notes ready. But as he looked at these children, some too young to even understand what they'd lost, he felt a prepared speech was inadequate. These weren't soldiers who'd chosen a dangerous profession. These were kids who'd had choice stolen from them, who'd lost parents to wars they couldn't understand, to enemies with no faces, to concepts like duty and honor that meant nothing when you just wanted your mom or dad to come home. "Good morning," Chaplain Hayes began, his voice gentle but carrying clearly through the gymnasium. "I know many of you are wondering why you're here today, why we're gathering to remember people who are gone. Some of you might be angry about that. Some of you might be sad. Some of you might not feel anything at all, and that's okay too." Emma's attention was caught by his tone. He wasn't talking like the other adults who spoke in that formal way that seemed to float over her head. He was talking like he was actually speaking to children. "My name is Chaplain Hayes, and my job is to help people when they're going through hard times. And losing someone you love, that's the hardest time of all." He paused, making eye contact with various children in the crowd. His gaze passed over Emma, and something in his expression made her feel like he actually saw her, not as just another kid in the crowd, but as a person with real hurt. "I want to tell you a story," Chaplain Hayes continued. "When I was 7 years old, my father died, not in war, but in an accident, and I remember being so angry and confused. I remember asking my mother the same questions many of you have probably asked. Why did this happen? Why did my dad have to die? Why didn't God save him?" Emma sat up straighter. This man understood. He'd lost his daddy, too. "My mother didn't have good answers. Chaplain Hayes said honestly. She told me that sometimes bad things happen and we don't know why. She told me that my father loved me very much, but none of that made the hurt go away. I still went to bed every night wishing my dad would come home. I still cried. I still felt angry. Around the gymnasium, children were completely silent now. Adults too. This wasn't the typical memorial service speech about honor and sacrifice. This was something different. But then something happened that changed how I thought about my father's death. My father had been a firefighter, and about a year after he died, a woman came to our house. She had her son with her, a boy about my age, and she told me that my father had saved her son's life. There had been a fire in their apartment building, and my father had gone into the burning building to get this boy out. He'd handed the boy to another firefighter, then gone back in to make sure everyone else was out. That's when the building collapsed. Chaplain Hayes' voice thickened with emotion. The woman told me that her son was alive because my father had been brave, that her son got to grow up, go to school, play with friends, fall in love, have his own children someday, all because my father had made a choice. He'd chosen to save that boy, even knowing it might cost him his life. He looked directly at Emma, though he didn't know her story specifically. He just saw a little girl clutching a teddy bear with tears streaming down her face. That didn't make me miss my father less, Chaplain Hayes said. It didn't make the hurt go away, but it helped me understand something important. My father died, but he died making sure someone else lived. And that boy who grew up, he became a doctor. He saved hundreds of lives over the years. My father saved one life, but in a way, he saved all the lives that doctor has saved too. Emma's hand shot up before she could stop herself. The gesture was so sudden that Sarah reached forward to gently lower Emma's arm, but Chaplain Hayes had already seen her. "Yes, sweetheart," he said gently. "Do you have a question?" Emma stood up, still clutching her teddy bear. Her voice was small, but clear in the silent gymnasium. "My daddy died too, in the war, and everyone says he was a hero and he saved people. But I don't understand." Her voice broke. "Why did they kill my daddy? If he was helping people, why did the bad guys want to hurt him?" The gymnasium was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Sarah moved to stand to go comfort her daughter, but Chaplain Hayes held up a gentle hand, asking her to wait. He stepped down from the podium and walked over to where Emma stood. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emma Grace Thompson. I'm 5 3/4. "Emma Grace, that's a beautiful name. And I'm so sorry about your daddy. Can you tell me what your daddy did in the Army?" "He was a doctor. He fixed people when they got hurt." "That's a very important job," Chaplain Hayes said softly. "Emma, I'm going to try to answer your question, but it's a hard question. Is that okay?" Emma nodded, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Chaplain Hayes took a deep breath. "Emma, do you know what shadow is?" Emma nodded again. "When the light makes a dark shape." "That's exactly right. Now, here's something interesting about shadows. A shadow can't exist without light. If there's no light, there's no shadow. Do you understand?" "I think so. Good and bad work kind of the same way. Bad people, the people who hurt your daddy, they exist because they're like shadows. They don't understand light. They don't understand love and helping and kindness. Your daddy was light, Emma. He was there to help people, to heal them, to make them better. And shadows hate light, because light shows everyone how dark the shadows really are." Emma's brow furrowed as she tried to process this. "So the bad people hurt Daddy because he was good?" "In a way, yes. When good people go to places where there's a lot of darkness, a lot of hurt and fear, the darkness tries to put out the light. Your daddy knew that might happen. But he went anyway because the people there needed help. There were children in that village, Emma. Children just like you who were sick and needed a doctor. Your daddy could have stayed safe. He could have said, 'It's too dangerous. I won't go.' But he went because those children needed him. Did he save them? The kids. Chaplain Hayes nodded, his own eyes glistening with tears. Yes, Emma, your daddy delivered all the medicine to that village before the bad thing happened. Every single person your daddy went to help got the help they needed. Children who would have died from sickness are alive right now because your daddy was brave enough to go help them. But why couldn't the bad people just let daddy help? Why did they have to hurt him? This was a question Chaplain Hayes had heard in 1,000 different forms over the years. Why do good people die? Why does God allow suffering? Why do heroes have to fall? There was no answer that would fully satisfy, no words that would make it make sense. But he tried. Emma, when people live in darkness for a long time, they start to fear the light. They think that if the light comes, it will take away everything they know. The bad people in that place, they don't want things to get better, because then people won't be afraid anymore. And when people aren't afraid, the bad guys lose their power. Your daddy was bringing medicine, but he was also bringing hope. He was showing people that someone cared about them, that they mattered, and that scared the bad people more than anything. So Daddy died because he gave people hope? Yes, sweetheart, that's exactly what happened. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing this. Then she asked, is Daddy's light still there? Or did it go out when the bad people hurt him? Chaplain Hayes felt his throat tighten. This child, this 5-year-old who still believed in teddy bears and bedtime stories, had just asked one of the most profound theological questions he'd ever heard. Emma, he said softly, your daddy's light is still shining. Do you know why? Emma shook her head. Because light doesn't work the way darkness does. When you blow out a candle, the light goes away, right? Yes. But what if you use that candle to light another candle before you blow it out? What happens to the light? Emma's eyes widened with understanding. It keeps going. The new candle has the light. Exactly. Your daddy lit so many candles, Emma. He lit candles in all the people he helped. He lit a candle in every soldier he served with, every patient he treated, every child he saved. And he lit the biggest, brightest candle in you. In me? Yes. You carry your daddy's light inside you, Emma Grace Thompson. Every time you're kind to someone, every time you help someone who's hurt, every time you stand up for what's right even when it's hard, that's your daddy's light shining through you. The bad people could hurt your daddy's body, but they couldn't put out his light. That light is still here, in you, in your mommy, in everyone who knew him and loved him. Emma looked down at her teddy bear, the one Daddy had fixed so many times. Daddy used to fix my bear when it broke. He said that's what doctors do. They fix things that are broken. That's right. Am I broken, Chaplain Hayes? Because I feel broken inside. I feel like something is wrong, and I don't know how to fix it. Chaplain Hayes pulled Emma into a gentle hug. Oh, Emma, you're not broken. You're hurt. There's a big difference. Broken things can't work anymore, but hurt things can heal. Your heart is hurt right now because you miss your daddy so much, and that hurt might never completely go away. But you know what? What? That hurt is there because you loved your daddy so much. The hurt is proof of how much love you have inside you, and love is the strongest kind of light there is. It's even stronger than the darkness that took your daddy away. Emma pulled back, looking at Chaplain Hayes with eyes far too old for her young face. Will I ever stop hurting? The hurt will change, Chaplain Hayes said honestly. Right now, it feels like the hurt is all you can feel. But over time, you'll start to remember the happy times more than the sad times. You'll remember your daddy fixing your bear, and it will make you smile instead of just cry. You'll remember his laugh, his hugs, the way he read you bedtime stories. And those memories will become treasures that you carry with you always. But I'm scared I'll forget him, Emma whispered. I'm scared I'll forget what his voice sounds like or how his hugs felt. Sarah, watching from a few feet away, let out a small sob. This was the fear she'd been dealing with too. The terror that Emma would grow up without really remembering Daniel. Chaplain Hayes gestured for Sarah to come over. She knelt beside Emma, wrapping her arms around her daughter. "Emma," Chaplain Hayes continued, "you won't forget your daddy. Your mommy will make sure of that. She'll tell you stories about him. She'll show you pictures and videos. She'll teach you the things your daddy valued, like kindness and courage and helping others. And you know what else?" "What?" "Your daddy lives on through you in another way. You have his smile. Somewhere inside you, you have his gift for caring about others, his bravery, his goodness. As you grow up, people are going to meet you and say, 'You remind me of your father.' And that's because his light is inside you, shining out." Emma thought about this for a long moment. "Chaplain Hayes, can I ask you one more question?" "Of course, sweetheart. Do you think Daddy knows I'm here? Do you think he knows I miss him?" Chaplain Hayes looked up at the ceiling, composing himself before answering. "Emma, I believe that love is stronger than death. I believe that the connection between a father and daughter doesn't break just because one of them goes to heaven. I can't prove this to you scientifically, but I believe in my heart. Your daddy knows you're here. He knows you miss him. And he's so proud of you for being brave enough to ask these hard questions. Is he watching me? I believe he is. I believe he sees you growing up, learning new things, being kind to your friends, helping your mommy. And I believe he's cheering for you every single day." Emma wiped her eyes with her teddy bear's ear. "If he's watching, I want to tell him something." "What do you want to tell him?" Emma looked up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it to heaven itself. "Hi, Daddy. I miss you so much. I'm trying to be brave like you were. I'm trying to be a light like Chaplain Hayes said. And Daddy, thank you for helping those kids, even though it meant you couldn't come home to me. I wish you were here, but I understand now. You were being a hero, and heroes help people even when it's hard." There wasn't a dry eye in the gymnasium. 300 military families, all carrying their own grief, were witnessing this little girl's courage and finding their own comfort in her words. Emma looked back at Chaplain Hayes. "Can I sit down now?" "Of course. But Emma, thank you for asking your question. You helped me remember why I do this job. You reminded everyone here that it's okay to ask the hard questions, okay to say when you're hurt, okay to not understand everything." Emma nodded and returned to her spot on the floor, Sarah sitting beside her now instead of behind her, arms wrapped around her daughter. Chaplain Hayes returned to the podium, but he abandoned his prepared remarks entirely. Instead, he spoke from the heart. "I want to thank Emma for her courage today," he began. "She asked a question that all of us have wondered. Why do bad people hurt good people? Why do the people we love have to die when they're just trying to help? And the truth is, there's no answer that will make it okay. There's no explanation that will take away the pain." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "But what I can tell you is this. The men and women we honor today, the fathers and mothers and sons and daughters who didn't come home, they made a choice. They chose to be light in dark places. They chose to help even when it was dangerous. They chose to serve others, knowing the cost might be everything. And yes, that cost was too high. Yes, it's unfair that Emma doesn't have her daddy. It's unfair that hundreds of children in this room will grow up without a parent. It's unfair that spouses are raising children alone, that parents have buried their kids, that families are incomplete. But here's what the darkness doesn't understand. You can't put out light by killing the person who carries it, because light spreads. Every person here carries the light of someone you've lost. You carry their courage, their love, their dedication to making the world better. And when you live your life honoring their memory, when you choose kindness over cruelty, hope over despair, love over hate, that light grows stronger. Emma asked if her daddy's light is still shining. I want every child in this room to understand. Yes, your parents' light is still shining. It's shining in you. And as you grow up and face challenges, you'll find yourself making choices your mom or dad would have made. You'll find yourself standing up for what's right, helping people who need it, being brave when you're scared. And in those moments, your parents' light is shining through you. The bad people thought they could win by taking our loved ones away. But they don't understand that love is stronger than hate, that hope is more powerful than fear, that light will always overcome darkness eventually. It might take time. It might take years. But it will happen. Chaplain Hayes looked directly at the section where Emma sat. To every child here who's lost a parent, you are not alone. You are part of a family of people who understand your hurt. And while I can't promise the pain will go away completely, I can promise that you're strong enough to carry it. You're strong enough because you come from strong people. You're strong enough because their strength lives in you. And to the adults in this room, we have a responsibility to these children. We need to keep telling their stories. We need to make sure Emma and every other child here knows exactly how brave their parent was, how much they accomplished, how many lives they saved or changed. We need to teach these kids that their parents' sacrifice wasn't in vain, that it mattered, that it still matters. He closed with a prayer, but it wasn't a traditional military prayer. It was personal, honest, and spoke directly to the grief in the room. God, we don't understand why you let this happen. We don't understand why good people die while trying to help others. We're angry and hurt and confused. But we thank you for the time we had with the people we've lost. We thank you for their courage, their love, their willingness to serve. And we ask that you help us carry their light forward. Help Emma and all these children grow into adults who honor their parents' memory by living with the same courage and compassion. Help us remember that love is stronger than death, that light overcomes darkness, and that sacrifice means something. Amen. After the ceremony, dozens of families approached Chaplain Hayes and Emma. Parents thanked them both for making the service meaningful in a way formal speeches never could. Children asked Emma about her teddy bear, about her daddy, about how she was so brave to stand up and ask her question. Emma, overwhelmed by the attention, held her mother's hand tightly. But when a boy about her age, whose own mother had been killed in action, asked her if the hurt ever got better, Emma repeated what Chaplain Hayes had told her. It gets different, she said with the wisdom of someone far older, and we carry their light inside us. That's what makes us strong. Sarah knelt beside her daughter and pulled her close. Your daddy would be so proud of you today, Emma Grace. I know, Mommy. He's watching. Chaplain Hayes said so. I believe that, too. Chaplain Hayes watched his mother and daughter embrace, and he felt the weight of 3 decades of ministry settle on his shoulders in a good way. This was why he did this work. Not for the ceremonies or the recognition, but for moments like this. For little girls who asked impossible questions and deserved honest answers. For families trying to find meaning in senseless loss. For the chance to help people see light in the darkness. As families began to leave, Emma ran back to Chaplain Hayes one more time. Chaplain Hayes? Yes, Emma? I'm going to be a doctor when I grow up. Like Daddy. I'm going to help people and be light in dark places. Chaplain Hayes knelt down one more time, looking into this brave little girl's eyes. Emma Grace Thompson, your daddy will be so incredibly proud of you, and I believe you're going to change the world. Because I carry his light? Because you carry his light and you've learned to let it shine. Emma hugged him fiercely, then ran back to her mother. As they walked out of the gymnasium hand in hand, Chaplain Hayes heard Emma say to Sarah, Mommy, I think Daddy heard me when I talked to him. I felt it in my heart. I felt it too, baby, Sarah replied, her voice thick with emotion. I felt it too. Chaplain Hayes stood alone in the empty gymnasium, looking at the photos of fallen service members displayed around the room. Major Daniel Thompson's picture was among them, a young man with kind eyes and a gentle smile who died bringing medicine to people in need. Thank you, Daniel, Chaplain Hayes whispered. Thank you for raising such a brave daughter. And thank you for the question she asked today. You helped me help a lot of hurting people. He knew that Emma's journey through grief was just beginning. There would be harder days ahead, moments when the loss felt fresh and raw again. First days of school without Daddy birthdays, Father's Day, graduations. But he also knew that Emma had something many grieving children struggle to find: understanding. She understood now that her father's death had meaning, that his sacrifice had saved lives, that his light lived on through her. And most importantly, she understood that it was okay to hurt, okay to ask why, okay to be angry at the unfairness of it all, because acknowledging the pain was the first step toward healing. 5 years later, Chaplain Hayes received a letter. It was written in careful 10-year-old handwriting, with drawings in the margins. Dear Chaplain Hayes, my name is Emma Thompson. You talked to me at a ceremony when I was 5. You helped me understand why my daddy died. I wanted to write and tell you that I still remember everything you said. I still carry Daddy's light inside me. I'm in 5th grade now. I'm the best student in my class at science because I want to be a doctor like Daddy. I help kids at school when they're being bullied. Mommy says that's because Daddy taught me to stand up for people who need help. I still miss Daddy every day. But I also smile when I think about him now, just like you said I would. I have a box of things that were his, and sometimes I just sit with them and remember. Mommy tells me stories about him all the time. I wanted you to know that your words helped me. They still help me. When I have bad days, I remember that I carry Daddy's light. That makes me feel strong again. Thank you for answering my question. Thank you for making me understand. Love, Emma Grace Thompson. P.S. I still have the teddy bear. Mommy learned how to sew so she can fix it when it needs it, just like Daddy did. Chaplain Hayes read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. This was why he served. This was why he stood before grieving families again and again, absorbing their pain, try to offer comfort in the darkest moments of their lives. Because sometimes a simple act of honesty, of kneeling down to a child's level and answering an impossible question with truth and compassion, could change a life, could give a hurting little girl the tools she needed to carry her grief with grace, could help her transform her loss into purpose. Emma Grace Thompson would grow up to become exactly what she promised: a doctor who served in remote, dangerous places, bringing healing to people who needed it most. She would tell anyone who asked that she became a doctor because her father had shown her what light looked like in dark places, and because a chaplain had once taught her that she carried that light inside her. And when she had children of her own, she would tell them about their grandfather who they never met, about his courage and compassion, about how he died helping others. And she would teach them that they, too, carried that light, and that it was their responsibility to let it shine. Because that's what light does. It spreads, one candle lighting another, then another, until the darkness has nowhere left to hide.